believe it's 5:30. I'll call the meeting of the Oswego Public Library District Board of Trustees to order. And could we have a roll call, please, Jim?
Conan, here. Beal.
Here.
Friedman. Here. Martyr.
Here.
Ramirez.
Here.
Tampa.
Here.
Wallers.
Here.
First, I want to apologize for the fact I have a couple voice. But it's better than a week ago when I had no voice. So it works the same way here as at home. If you can't hear me, tell me to speak up. Okay? Thank you. First item that we have on the agenda is John, our Eagle Project Bat House proposal. So John, would you approach us and tell us a little bit about what you'd like to do?
Hello, my name is John Krasinski, and I'm a Life Scout in Troop 48. We charter out of the neighborhood Church of the Brethren in Boulder Hill. I've been in Scouts since I was a Tiger Cub at 6 years old, and I am here today to talk about my Eagle Scout project, which is one of the last things I need to complete before reaching the rank of Eagle Scout. My proposal is to install 2 bat houses on a single post near the walking path and star chart close to the back of the parking lot. We will be purchasing kits from a bat educational organization. First, I can tell you a little bit about bats and bat houses, and then I can try to answer any of your questions. Bats fly around at night catching mosquitoes and other insects. They are great natural pest control, and it is said that one bat can eat as many as 600 insects per hour. During the day, however, bats sleep in tree hollows, wood piles, rocky outcrops, caves, and sometimes people's attics. They generally prefer someplace warm. In the suburban Midwest, we can mostly expect to have large brown and small brown bats in the area. Occasionally, Indiana bats may be around, but they are endangered and will only roost in caves or under the loose bark of trees. When putting up a bat house, you can expect it to take up to 2 years or longer for bats to occupy the house. This is because bats don't often change to new roosts when they already have one. They only move if their current home becomes too crowded or is destroyed, so patience is required after putting up a new bat house. Having bat houses available may keep bats from nesting in the attic of a nearby home. This is good as bats can be disturbing to people with the vocalizations they make. They can also carry ticks, fleas, or bat bugs, which are parasites that specifically feed on bats. Bats also leave urine and guano, which can cause fungi to grow. These fungi can cause infections in humans. Bats are most active at night, but will come out at dusk to feed for a few hours. It is expected that having bats in the area will help control the local insect population, which should make for more pleasant outdoor activities at the library. It may even be a cool thing to see small bats zipping across the dim evening landscape near the library as well. Does anyone have any questions?
How do they come inside a building like our church has had 3 in the last 5 years?
If there's any damage to the building, they could go through, or any windows or anything.
Are they like mice that they can come in little holes?
Who knows? they get through somehow.
We know.
I have a question. So if we had this roost, you said that the guano can cause infection, or the fungi that grows from the guano. Is there a way to dispose of that properly? Would we need to have, like, hire somebody to do that, or?
There is probably not going to be a problem, as the roost will be over the prairie behind the star chart.
That whole side?
So it shouldn't be in the way of anyone or anything.
How many are you proposing?
What?
How many bat houses are you proposing?
Just the 2, which are connected. Because they can fit a large amount of bats. So.
John, what is your timeline?
I'm hoping to have finished putting everything up and stuff by the end of November, because February is the end of my, what's scouting career?
He turns 18.
I was figuring out words.
You're lucky now.
He turns 18 in February. Once you turn 18, you're done.
Okay.
Well, all I can tell you is I was a scout back in the dark ages, and I never got near that far, and I can tell you, I have a lot of respect for anybody who gets all the way through Eagle, so good for you.
This is a great proposal.
Very nice.
You can move it forward from the item, but it is on the agenda. If you want to move it forward now, you can vote on it.
Why don't we do that? And I'll entertain a motion to approve installation, John installing the bat houses here at the Montgomery campus, back by the display that we have of the stars and the planets.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second,
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
This is great.
Well done.
yeah, very good.
Thank you.
We look forward to- Roll call, Jim?
Martyr,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yeah.
Tamblin,
Yes.
Wallers,
Yes.
Conan, yes, Deal,
Yes.
Friedman.
Yes,
Okay, the deal is, you have to come back when you get it up. After a while, and tell us how it goes.
It's over in the chair in the
Can
left
you
corner
do
over there.
that? Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have a guest this evening, Andrew Kim, Director of Finance, Public Finance at PMA, talking about a PMA proposal for financial planning, which is great timing because we're also in the season of truth and taxation and our levies and things like that. And I know Andrew is an expert on all of those things. He's 5 miles away from home, so
Yeah.
old joke. Never mind.
Well, it's interesting. I'm actually coming directly from the ILA conference in Springfield this morning, where I gave a presentation on the financial forecasting model, very much similar to what I'll be showcasing here, as well as the tax levy, which is also related to one of your agenda items.
Yes.
So, I have developed an expertise. It tends to be a conversation killer at parties I go to, but I have developed an expertise in how library districts in Illinois can extend their levies. I just do want to have there's a section of the presentation in regard to the PMA as a firm, just to demonstrate some credibility in. So we are a financial services firm, provide a host of different services for units of government in Illinois. We have offices in other states as well, but we're headquartered here. We started here in Illinois, headquartered actually in Naperville, Illinois. The green box is the group that I'm part of, Public Finance, and we, our kind of main line of business is providing assistance on debt issuance. So when units of government like the library need to borrow money, they access the capital market. We kind of guide units of government through that whole process. And in that role, we realized that particularly for library districts in Illinois, that there was a lot of need for a financial forecasting model, like the one that we created. So like I said, we're headquartered in Naperville. We also have an office in Fairview Heights, right outside St. Louis. We've been around, the firm has been around since the 1980s, but our group has been around since 2005, with about 20 people in our group. So all these beautiful faces are the senior advisors in our group, and assuming a relationship with the library district moves forward, I would be the primary point person from our group. This is kind of the team behind the 4 senior advisors that does a lot of the quantitative analysis, official statement analysis, if that's required on a bond issue. And we were recently ranked the #2 municipal advisor to all Illinois issuers for the 12-month period ending June 30 of 2023. And enough about PMA. So here's the forecasting model. As I mentioned, as we work with both library districts and park districts, we realized that there was a need for a financial forecasting model. And so we originally created one for the Palatine Public Library District as they were preparing to go to referendum for an increase in their levy. Since then, the model's been employed by several other library districts as well as park districts. Wilmette Public Library District, Roselle Public Library District, Homer Township Public Library District, Batavia Public Library District, I believe Lyle Library District is another library, as well as several park districts as well. So, we built it out for Palatine, realized that there was a really big need for this, and other library districts have found it to be incredibly helpful. The model itself, I would say, is broken up into two parts. The first part is the levy projection, where we project out for the next several years, whether it's 5, 10, 20 years, however long we want the model to go out for, what the library's future property tax revenues might be.
You got it.
And I'm sure many of you are aware, particularly if you're directly working with the library, that the property tax levy it generates roughly, probably at least 90% of your revenues, if not more. For library districts in Illinois, we're talking 95, 96% of your total revenues come from your property tax levies. So it is, the levy projection, that portion of the model is, in my opinion, the most important, the most valuable piece of the model, because levies are roughly 90 to 95% of your total revenue source, and because the way in which your levies are determined and extended onto your tax base is a very complex model, particularly for those library districts like Oswego, excuse me, that are in tax cap counties, and therefore they are subject to the property tax extension limitation law, which makes calculating what your future levy can be very difficult. It does take into account factors like consumer price index, new property, which includes any maturing TIF districts that we might have, as well as the reassessment rate of the existing EAV and how that changes from one year to the next, and of course, the legal constraints of the property tax extension limitation law, PTEL. So our model takes into account all these different factors. Having worked with a bunch of different units of government throughout Illinois for many years now, we have a nuanced understanding of how PTEL works for units of government and library districts. The other part of the model is the governmental funds projection. And of course, the most significant fund is the corporate fund. And so we're able to link the property tax revenues that are being generated on the levy projection to the corporate fund. And we then project out what the corporate fund revenues might look like moving forward. But we also have, as part of the model, we build out the special reserve fund and what that will look like over the duration of the model, as well as an aggregate of the non-major governmental funds, which I'm not exactly sure how the Oswego Library does it, but you can levy for many of the non-major governmental funds like audit, IMRF, Social Security, okay. And then once we build out the model covering those aspects, we have a conclusion, and it's a summary paragraph providing concluding thoughts and any recommendations that PMA might have based on the results of the model. So, with that, I thought I would jump to, actually, why don't I do this? Why don't I bring up a sample kind of result of the model. Here I'll do the model that we use for Roselle Public Library District. So you can see here, we have an introduction. So this is the report that we would create after running the model. The introduction talks about why the library district might be interested in having a forecasting model, the duration of the model, the components of the model, and then we go into the assumptions and results of the model. So we start off with the levy projections. As I said, that's probably the most important part of the entire model. We detail what the assumptions we used are for CPI, for new property, all this kind of stuff. And then we discuss the results of the model. We do the same thing for the corporate fund. You can see the assumptions we used, the results. We do the same thing for the special reserve fund. Again, reviewing the assumptions and results. The non-major governmental funds. We provide an aggregate summary of all funds. And then we have a conclusion, concluding thoughts regarding what PMA's kind of final recommendations are regarding the model and what the objectives of having the model in place were for. And then as an appendix to the write-up is the actual model itself. So this here is the model for Oswego Public Library District. I'll go through this. I'll kind of flip through the slides here so you can see various aspects of the model and what it looks like. Graphical representations. This is the corporate fund. These orange pages are the levy projection. The blue pages are the corporate fund projections. The gray pages are the special reserve fund. The red is the non-major governmental funds, and then the dark blue is the aggregate summary of all funds. So this is what the model looks like. If we have a few minutes, I thought I'd review the model in the Excel form so you can see how various assumptions, as those assumptions change, how it affects the model. So here, I have another library district. This is Wilmette Library District, their model. And they were exploring a question of, what would the impact be if we didn't take the full amount that they're allowed to under PTEL in terms of their levy, and if they only took something less than 5%. So with your levy, you can increase your property tax levy over and above the prior year's extensions by 5%, by the lesser of 5% for CPI. Since CPI was 6.5% in calendar year 2022, which is the CPI that we use for levy year 2023, which is the levy that you are in the process of filing with the county. Since CPI was 6.5%, the most that you can increase your property tax extension is by 5%. So in this case, we use 5% here, and you can see that for the Wilmette Library, it allows them to generate $6.2 million. But if they decide they didn't want to take that full 5%, and for some reason, they wanted to take less than that, if they didn't need the full $6.2 million, they could take, let's say 2%. Changes to 2%, and you can see that changed to $6,076,000. So the assumptions that you use dramatically impact how much you're going to be able to levy for moving forward. And for example, we assume in the projection model that the library will take 2.5%. The CPI will be around 2.5% for the duration of the model. And if we change that to 5%, you'll be able to see a change in the amount that can be levied for. So essentially, the forecasting model takes all these factors into account, and then the corporate fund is built out using the property tax revenues that are generated from the levy projection slide. And it extends out, obviously, throughout the duration of the model. In this case, for Wilmette Library, went out to 2040. And not only did it take into account the property tax revenues, but all other revenues that are a part of the corporate fund. And we assume that the revenues in the corporate fund as well as the expenditures in the corporate fund grow by various percentages on an annual basis. And what these percentages are, I would probably start off assuming a certain percentage growth, but then I would work with the library's administration to say, well, our personnel expenses are expected to grow by X% instead of Y%. So let's use X%, whereas I may start off using Y%. But I work with the library's administration in order to determine what percentages make the most sense for the library. Obviously, these are the percentages that we use for the web library, but Oswego libraries' percentages might be different. And then we highlight here what the ending fund balance would be based on the model, and the percentage fund balance, the fund balance as a percentage of the operating expenditures. Now, when you build out a model like this, obviously you probably want to be a little bit conservative. You don't want to assume that your revenues are going to grow by some dramatic amount, and that your expenditures only grow by a little bit. Because then you show, you'll create this profile of your finances that might be falsely optimistic. And so you want to be a little bit conservative, but at the same time, you don't want to be overly conservative. Because if you show that your expenditures are growing at a pace that's dramatically over and above your revenues, then you're going to be creating a falsely dire situation for your finances as well. So you kind of want to be as realistic as possible, and maybe on the conservative side so that you're not overspending monies that you think you're going to have that you actually don't end up getting in the future. We do have a special reserve fund model as well. As I mentioned earlier, in this particular case, Wilmette Library had a capital maintenance plan or a capital study done with I think a local architect to determine what needs their facilities required, and we just input those expenses into the model that were determined by the architect in order to determine the expenditures for the special reserve fund. And then the revenues in the special reserve fund are either going to be interest income from funds that you might have invested, or transfers in. You can see historically this library district had a transfer of $1.8 million into the special reserve fund from the corporate fund. And if you had a general practice of transferring monies from your general fund to your special reserve fund, that is likely going to be the primary source of funds for your special reserve fund. And then, for this library, they didn't ask us to do an analysis of their non-major governmental funds, so we didn't do that. Usually it's a lot smaller and frankly less significant than your corporate fund. You can see in the other sample that I gave, I think it was Brazil libraries, they did ask us to do analysis of the non-major governmental funds, so that's up to the district to determine whether or not you want us to do that. But that pretty much covers the basics of what the model is. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Yes, sir.
So we have a district that's growing. How do you program future growth into the model?
Yeah, that is a good question. So the levy slide here, or the levy tab, takes into account the growth of new property. So this line here is $12 million. That's an average or an estimate based on historical new property. So we include new property or new construction that is happening in the community. We also take into account TIF districts that might be expiring. And even though TIF districts have property that's there, it's not new, it would be new in terms of the library's finances as property that's rolling onto your tax rolls from the TIF district. So we take that into account in this line item here. And so all of that is taken into account in our assumptions, and of course, I would work with the library again to determine what number makes the most sense for the library, whether it's 12 million, or 2 million, or 20 million. I would work with the library to determine that.
or follow-up to that, are they actual taxable properties in our district in that line, or is that just an estimate?
For future years, it's going to be just an estimate, because it's impossible for any of us to know
For the
what,
current year?
for the current year, for every year that we have data, finalized data for, it's going to be included in this kind of historical section of the model. So we go back, in this case, we went back to fiscal year 2020, which was levy year 2018, to provide the historical data, and then future years, we use assumptions and estimates to make the projections.
So I'm pretty sure anyone that's in the taxing district here got hit with a huge assessment increase a month or so ago, right? So would that be reflected in this model for us if you were doing enforcement?
So with your most recent tax bill?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that would be included in the model, because your most recent tax bill that you received probably in the last month or so is part of your 2022 levy. 2022 levy, we have all of the data for that, and so that would be included in the model as historical data, and the projections would start from next year moving.
And the source of the data is individual properties that are taxable within the district?
The source of the data is from the county. The county assesses all of the individual properties in the district, determines what the value is,
And it gives you a number.
and then gives us a number, exactly.
Right, so I think the answer to that's yes.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Yes.
Excuse me. We feel like the district has done a good job of taking care of our finances. Each year we hear from our auditors, and we will next month, that we're in good financial shape.
Sure.
It's not bad to have an outside set of eyes, take a look at the numbers as we do each year,
Yeah.
and help us to make sure that we're seeing everything we should be seeing. Your service, is it a one-time deal where you come in, set it up, give us the projections and everything for the next so many years and so on, so that we can compare to what we've been looking at and the way we go about doing business? Or is it something you expect that we would do for a number of times, I guess?
Yeah, that's up to the library. For example, you can see for so for Wilmette Library, for their financial forecasting model, I did one in 2021, I did one in 2022, and I did one in 2023. For other libraries like Brazil, that sample, I just did it for one time, and they did not re-engage me, although now I think about it, it was in 2022. So, but they did re-engage me in 2023. The way, from a compensation perspective, the way it works with Wilmette and the way I would anticipate it working with the library is that there was a one-time fee for the original model, and then for annual kind of resubscriptions, if you will, we came up with an hourly fee with a maximum of a certain number of hours, so that so the one-time fee was $10,000 in 2021 as the fee for the library here, and then for the subsequent years it was $250 per hour for a maximum of $5,000. And then in 2023, when they re-engaged me again, I just took that maximum down to $4,000 because, frankly, I didn't think it was going to take the full amount of time to get to $5,000 anyway. So I just said, hey, yeah, I'll lower your max to $4,000. So it would, on the subsequent years, it would be an hourly fee, maxed at some dollar amount.
Could we do a full study this year and then wait a year or two, and if we chose to do it, have you come back and
Sure.
update it then?
Yeah, so instead of having me come back next year, having me come back in 2 years at an hourly fee, maxed at some dollar amount, I would be totally fine with that, absolutely.
Other questions?
I have questions for Sarah and Melissa, which would be, given what you've seen here, and I don't know if this is the first time you've seen this. Okay. Do you see anything here that is different, better, would improve the process over what you currently do today?
It's a good double check. So we've had it before where we've had these long-range models, and it gets more of a sharper instrument. We have a large, little bit of a balloon in it, just to make sure that we're following along and we're getting what we should be doing and making sure we have an outside source to verify that we're going along the right track. That makes sense. And it's not just me saying it, we have somebody who's also checking it.
Other questions?
Andrew, how has your model performed? Have you gone back and looked at the projected versus the actual?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I can show you, for example, let's do 2022 for Wilmette. So the way that Wilmette asked me to do it was because they weren't sure if they wanted to take the full amount that was allowable under detail, so they asked me to create 3 different scenarios. One is where they kept the taxes flat, one is where they increased it to the maximum, and one is the middle. By the way, keeping your taxes flat does not mean that if I'm a resident in your district, that my taxes from the library will remain flat. It does not mean that. Likely what it means is that my taxes will go down if the library keeps their property taxes flat because of the impact of new property. Every year there's new property, and new property consumes a portion of the amount that you're levying onto your tax base. So really keeping a flat levy means reducing payments to your tax payments to your constituents. But you know, I'd be happy to look at Wilmette's. Let's see. So it looks like as of fiscal year 2022, they had $7.6 million of fund balance, and that fund balance went down fairly dramatically to the point where they were having a negative fund balance by fiscal year 33. That's what we were projecting in 2022. This year's situation, they ended fiscal year 2023 with $6.5 million in fund balance and estimated to go negative in fiscal year 2032. So projections will change as new results come up. Right?
And then you reset the model, I presume, every year to put the actuals in?
Exactly. I'll reset the model. If they re-engage me, because Wilmette re-engaged me,
Right.
I reset the model. And not only did we reset the model, we reviewed the assumptions that we were using for growth rates of either the revenues or the expenditures. Yeah, so you can see in last year's model, we assumed personnel and other expenses to grow by 3.5%. In 2023, when we redid the model, we said, you know what, we should probably assume that expenses are growing by 4% instead of 3.5%. So we'll revisit the assumptions that we're using in the model in order to try and be a little bit more accurate. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, before we let you go,
Yes.
levy is coming up,
Yes.
and every year we have this discussion because we tend to be one of the first entities in this area that publishes. And our philosophy has been to levy high,
Yes.
because as we always tell, somebody shows up from the public and wants to talk about the levy of why it's so high, and we try to explain to them that we only get what we're going to get, what the assessor comes up with, what the county clerk comes up with under the law because of detail. But if we levy low, especially in a high growth district, we could miss a lot of new growth
Yes.
that helps to pay all of our taxes, those of us who've been here for a while. So, am I explaining that right? Am I
Yeah.
missing something, or?
Yeah, I think you're explaining it right. One helpful way that I use to explain it is that the levy is what the library is going to ask for. And you can ask for as much as you want. You know, I can ask my boss for a $10 million raise, but I'm only going to get what he thinks I should get, right, in terms of a raise, if it breaks it up. And in the same way, you can ask for as much money as you want in your levy, but you're only going to be extended, what's extended to the taxpayers is only going to be an amount that the county determines you should receive based on the laws of PTEL and how PTEL is calculated. So I do think that asking for a larger amount is beneficial because it guarantees that the library will get all that is allowed under PTEL. And just as a reminder, PTEL was implemented because the state realized that inflation is a real thing, right? And so annually, your expenditures are increasing by, theoretically, the rate of inflation. And so they implemented PTEL to allow your property tax revenues to also increase by the rate of inflation. Because in theory, they wanted you to be able to provide the same level of services that you provided historically. And the only way to do that is to have your revenues increase as your expenditures increase. If your expenditures are increasing by inflation, without providing any more services or any more programming or hiring any more people, then, and your revenues are not increasing, then you're going to find yourself in a precarious financial situation moving forward. So PTEL, yes, it is a way in which you can increase the taxes onto your tax base without your tax base having any say, but theoretically, it's there only to allow the library to continue to provide the same degree of services that it has provided historically.
Just one last question, if we miss on our guess on the levy
Yeah.
by 2%,
By 2% higher or 2% lower?
2% too low,
Yeah.
and we lose that amount that year, that's in perpetuity.
It is not only in perpetuity, it is compounded in perpetuity because of the inflation factor in PTEL. So $100,000 that you might lose this year, you'll lose $105,000 next year if CPI is 5%, and then $11,000 the following year. So that loss grows annually.
So I want to turn the tables a little bit and ask this from a taxpayer perspective.
Sure.
My property taxes just went up 9%. I bet a lot of people in this room had a 9% more increase in this county. So if we do nothing, since our assessments all went up, let's just use that number, 9% this year. Would we not increase our revenues by just doing nothing if we levied the same amount as what we're currently doing?
No. So when you levy a dollar amount. So you're going to be asking for a dollar amount, whether that is the same as last year, lower than last year, or higher than last year. You're asking for a dollar amount. And if you ask for the same dollar amount as last year, the tax bills will be going down for I would say for an average taxpayer. So, for example, let's say
even if my assessment went up 9%.
Well, if your assessment went up, then yes, your bill could go up, right? So let's say, for example, you and I have, we each have the same house, and let's say it's both worth $300,000. But in the following year, yours goes up by, let's say, 10%, so it's now worth $330,000, and mine goes up by 1%, so that's $303,000, because you're in a nicer neighborhood, new Costco was just built, there's a nice park in your neighborhood, for whatever reason, yours went up by more than mine. In that case, even though your house and my house was worth the same the year before, your tax bill will be higher than mine. And let's say the library increases its levy by 5%. My taxes might only go up by 1% or 2% or something, and yours might go up by 8, 9, or 10%. Because the increase in your house was more than the increase in my house. So when the library levies, it levies for the whole district, and the way in which that impacts individual properties is going to be different based on the change in the individual properties from one year to the next. And frankly, you might qualify for certain exemptions that I don't, or vice versa. And that also then, even though we have the same value house last year.
My only comment about the taxes is when I looked at my tax bill when I received it, my library taxes went up $4 a year. $4. Okay, that's all. The big Megillah, the big gorilla in the room is the school district, because 70 cents of every dollar goes to the school district. That's the big gorilla when the taxes go up, not the library.
Yeah, I'm just.
3 cents out of every tax dollar goes to the library. 3 cents.
My concern is that the way this was proposed to us as board members, that we got to vote on this. I want to know if what I'm voting on is a tax increase or not. It's plain and simple, right? Because that's what most of us hear about, they're paying taxes. We want to know if you're increasing our taxes. And the way that this is presented in the levy process is pretty darn hard for me to figure that out. I want to understand that better. So what constitutes for us, if we ask for 5%, is that a tax increase or is that a tax decrease for most of our taxes?
Did you look at your bill and see what your
Yes, I
library
did.
tax, what did your library tax go up? Mine was $4.
The assessment went up 9%.
But what did
so
your library tax go up? We're
I'm
talking
assuming
about
that
the
it went up-
library, we're not
I
talking
know,
about
I'm
the
assuming
school.
that it went up 9%, right? Because the entire assessment went up 9%.
So what did yours go up? You didn't
So-
say.
I didn't look at the.
Oh, you don't know.
I don't remember the
So you
detail.
don't know.
I looked at it, I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
But since my bill went up 9%, I'm assuming
Okay.
that the library
When you
portion
go home,
also
when
went
you
up
go
9%.
home tonight, why don't you look and see what you're paying to the library?
And I brought it in before, but
So this would just be an external recommendation so that we could sort of juxtapose that against what we already know and the procedure that we already follow. So it's just a second opinion.
It's an extra check.
Got it.
I think I agree. You have not been in the red since 1982, but I have been there since 1982, but we've not been in the red. But this would be an outside source, so when we do have questions from the public or from the board, you just aren't just depending on me.
Right, and we don't have to necessarily follow their advice. We can toggle with it however we see fit.
Absolutely. But it would give us possibilities of what the future would hold. If we didn't ask for enough, this is what might happen. These are the decisions we're making by asking that.
Is that correct?
And sir, to answer your question, I would say, the library can control how much it asks for in the levy. What it cannot control is how that increase in the levy might impact individual taxpayers, because it's just impossible to know how each property's value changed from one year to the next, which it does. But the change in how that property, the change in the value of that property does impact the tax bill for each taxpayer. It's just something that the library can't possibly do.
Right, there's only, the bottom line is, there's only 2 ways we can change our tax rate, which we've never increased. Is one, by asking for a larger tax rate for operations of the library, which we've never done, or by selling bonds for a new addition, a new campus or something like that. And that's where the county clerk would apply that over so many years. So that's the only 2 ways we really could change the rate on your taxes. Everything else is really by law. And it's kind of through the people and so on. So, anyway, any more questions from Mr. Kemp at this time? Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
We'll take just a second here. I'll give you a chance to get your things together and it's okay.
I know.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is truth and taxation hearing. I'll hear a motion to open the public hearing for public comment. At this time.
Make a motion to open public comment portion.
Okay. Thank you, Pete. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, Joe?
Wallers, Conan, yes. Deal,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Harder,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Hamblin.
Yes. All right, now we'll hear from the public. Any comments or questions about the proposed levy increase for Oswego Public Library District for 2023 to 2024 to be collected in fiscal year 24-25?
Can you comment on the amount that we're asking for the increase? I believe we have a copy in our packet, but I don't know if it's covered.
Oh. So on page 52, the total levy is 6.689. $6,689,000.
And what is that compared to previous year? Is that just?
We've always done about the same, and they always cut us down to exactly where we followed in the budget.
So is that like, or is that a 5% levy increase?
No, it's more than that, because we've had some additional growth, so it's the 5% that we would typically do at 4.95%. And then we did a TIDA hearing, that's what we're going to do here, because we're asking about that, for any additional growth or any additional housing or construction, anything that is built that adds to the EAP. Because we don't add it, we just get that 5%.
And how do you make it, how do you decide, how do you get information on how much growth there's been? Do you go to the individual cities to determine what they're showing, or how do you do that?
I do past 7 to 10 years on what the different variations are, and I use it from that. It's kind of hard though for us, so for example, and from 2000 to 2010, we doubled in population and we doubled our EAV. So it's not always accurate, so I try to do the best I can, and some of the changes in the housing market and such is a little off. But I do the past several years, and I do the variation of what we've had and what we've received. And so I do kind of do some years where there's not much growth, or there's something that's happening in the world. We do that less, that 4.9. We don't do the team hearing. But if I'm expecting, like I see that there's a lot of construction, or to be honest, we get a lot of fees from developers, then I have a feeling that something might be coming, and then I ask for more, so we get the people that are building or the new people in the area are paying their share.
Do you have a sense whether this represents an increase to the existing tax base and the new tax base?
It would be the same, like, because we're under PTEL, it has a very specific one. I don't know, as he's mentioned, I don't know what an individual house or what
Right,
it would
it's
be.
more of a general.
Yeah, the general, but it would be, because it's high enough, it would, if there's additional growth or EAV, we're in 3 different counties, so it's sometimes hard to do just by one county. You've got Will and Kane to do all 3 to kind of figure out where the EAV will be. This would capture any additional growth for the fiscal year 25, is when the funds would actually come in. It's kind of hard to do with that, so I guesstimate high, make sure that the library district gets all the new development that it can.
Boy, you don't have to be a rocket scientist either. I have to drive down every street to see what's going on now with everything that's being built again. It's like the 1990s all over again, where we went from 3 elementary schools to 13 elementary schools and 1 preschool, all within just a few years' time. Lots of referendums to do a lot of building, and it's coming again.
Again, just to comment, tax rate has nothing to do with this. You can't change the tax rate. EAV changes, which you guys know.
You got it.
It's like a tax to me.
And we can't control the EAV. So all we can do is, make our request according to the law.
I understand that. I'm just trying to assess if this number represents a potential large increase to existing taxpayers or not. And I know you can't give a direct answer to that, but I'm just trying to assess if that's.
I lived in the district for 20 plus years, and I've seen
And
a lot.
I actually did see mine the last couple of years go down a notch, so
Well,
just a little
I know.
fraction.
But
But this year I'm sure it's going up, but.
Okay, we're asking for public comments. Anyone have a question or comment? If not, I'll entertain a motion to end the public comment section.
Motion to adjourn. Public comments.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Jim.
Wallers, Conan, yes. Deal,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Harder,
Yes.
Ramirez, Campbell.
Yes. Okay, number 6, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but our mission, Oswego Public Library District, exists to provide quality library service. And I'll stop there. Next item, number 8, approval of our minutes. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve our minutes for September 27th, 2023.
Thanks, everyone.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Just a quick comment, I want to thank you for including the who spoke at the meeting and what down there.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Jim?
Ramirez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Wallers,
Yes.
Conan, yes. Deal,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Martyr.
Yes.
Okay, correspondence, Sarah.
I heard there was a request for a little bit of what we got and just some comments from each of the emails, so I'll go ahead and do that. In the past, I understand there were 17 letters sent to the board, and of those, the majority were positive with 3 negative. Just wanted to give a kind of an overview. But these
Is
are,
that emails you're referring to, or are you referring to?
it's prior ones that I didn't get. I'm now getting the emails, so these are the ones that I got along with the board. The first one was on 10/12. It said, "Hello, Oswego Library Board. I'm writing to support book diversity. I do not support any effort to further limit access to books or change current policy now or in the future." I'm not reading the whole letters, but I will pass her on if you're interested. The next was on 10/12. It said, "I urge you to support the continued presence of a wide variety of books in our library, even those that may have been seen as challenging or controversial. Let's uphold the principles of intellectual freedom and protect our community's access to a diverse range of ideas and perspectives." On 10/12, I received one that said, "No one," or the board did, "no one person or group should tell anyone else what they can or cannot read. Libraries must remain bastions of knowledge and not remove any title, no matter how controversial." And then on 10/13, I received one that wrote at the very, it was a long one, sorry. "I encourage you to remain steadfast in your commitment to provide a wide range of perspective and experiences to your patrons, as this is the very core of your mission. As we move forward, let us work together to address concerns while reaffirming our dedication to inclusivity and diversity in all aspects of our library's operations." So that's just kind of some highlights. I have the full emails that I can pass around here. In addition, we did get suggestions in our suggestion box. More YA comics. It would help me from Michael, and a little thing says, "I love Michaels." There. Meet and greet book club for 9 to 11-year-olds, and they love the library, and they like more kids reading in the library. And a couple of seat walkers for the elderly to help them carry their books.
That it, Sarah?
That's it, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. We had
Sarah,
some
there was
handouts.
one that was a reply to, so this gentleman, Mark, sent an email a bit back, and I sent a reply to that because he was not specific as to why he sent it. I sent a reply to that, and he said, "Thank you for your response." He replied to the whole board, so this should be on the list. But he also specifically, and I won't read the whole thing like he did, but he said, "I want to say that I'm appalled by the display of age-inappropriate books in the children's section, whether the kids are author's target audience or not is not the issue. The issue, in my opinion, is that the Oswego Library Board and its employees are in violation of state law, particularly 720 ILCS 511-20. It goes on.
And I apologize, we also had some handouts that I've not had time to read out, but that in the correspondence.
So that was a little email.
Okay. Do you want to forward that?
All right.
Are you passing these around?
Yeah.
That did not come to you.
Would you mind? Thank you.
Oh, I got a copy of it.
I was in Europe, it didn't come to me either, sorry.
Everybody got
I didn't
it?
get any of them.
Okay, moving on to number 10, financials. Could I have a motion on the fund balance revenue report, please?
I make a motion for the approval of the fund balance and revenue and expense reports.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I got ahead of myself. Sarah, anything we should know?
Sorry, just
That's
a couple
okay.
things I wanted to comment on. On page 23, the asphalt and concrete, AJ got all of the new, we have a lot of walkers. We added, it might be dark now, but if you come in earlier, there's a new sidewalk coming up the street coming to the front. We fixed that huge area that was a problem over here when the voters would come at 3 in the morning, so now it's all even, so no one's going to trip. And then they added one down by the youth services area on the sidewalk. I mentioned that, that's on page 23. We also had on page 22 VMware, which is for our licenses.
For our
to
software
send
licenses for our servers.
Things out to the servers.
Correct.
Thank you. And then I also wanted to say on page 19, Envisionware, that is $27,000. That is the security on the books, and really it's for security, but it's also our self-check machines at RFID and automatically helps patrons check things out, and it's easier for them to use. It's time saver. Are there any questions on any specific bills?
I'm mixing and matching. I'm going to circle back now.
Okay.
And the financial report. Anything about the financial report?
We're on budget. We have gotten some, the only thing that's a little above is the legal printing, which is high this month because it's the last of our legal printing for our DNA levy process.
Which item were you asking the question about?
The
Is it still the same?
financials, not the bills,
Not the fund balance revenue, but still under fund balance.
just the financials, yeah. Revenue and expense report. Any questions on the revenue and financial or expense report? If not, Jim, roll call?
Deal,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Martyr,
Yes.
Ramirez, Hamblin,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Conan, Stain.
Okay, now, we'll get to the bills. Could I have a motion on the October bills, please?
I move we approve, since I wrote the checks and went through all of them, I move that we approve the October 2023 bills in the amount of $394,787.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Sarah, you wanted to say?
Oh, it all looks great.
See, you go away for a month and
Yeah, that's it.
any questions from the board?
Nope.
Hearing none, roll call?
Friedman,
Yes.
Martyr,
Yes.
Ramirez, Hamblin,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Conan, Stain, Deal.
Yes.
Okay, director's report. Sarah?
Hello, first I'd like to say hello to Amanda. Amanda, she's been our intern the last 3 months. She's done a wonderful job as an intern here, and this is her last day. She's worked in all of our different departments, including cataloging, which is rather challenging. She did a good job there. And adult services, where she worked on some different newspapers. She did some collection development. It was wonderful, and she did a great display for the service books that we have up for Memorial Day, for Veterans Day at the other buildings. Thank you, Amanda, for all your hard work here.
Thank you.
Sarah? I understand that you've worked with Aurora, worked in Naperville, and now here. How are you doing?
You're doing good. Yeah.
We'll take it. Becky, thanks for being with us. That's great.
All right. We are increasing with new patrons. We had 269 new patrons. We had 16,000 people come in the door in September. We did meet with the Park District concerning the Trail 250, which is my renaming of the Sesquicentennial Trail, which I understand is hard for people to just latch onto, but it's for the 250th anniversary of the United States. So that will be a trail behind the Oswego building, and this will be something we've been working with for some different government agencies. We also had 2 requests for reconsideration. This month, we actually had quite a few come in just this afternoon and today, and I'll be looking through all of those. But according to our selection policy, once the complaint is identified fully that they're a resident, there's a material selection committee with the library director, a library trustee, and the library department head of the area that the book is recommended from. So we would need something from the board for that. And finally, I want to thank the staff. We had a snake in the building. And today one of the staff members got it out. I've done birds, I've done snakes, so they're very brave here.
Did they name it?
Sorry?
Did they name it?
I don't think so. You had to let him go. I didn't think they would.
Christine, if you would, I'd like you to serve on the committee with Sarah and department heads. Okay. Thank you. Okay. That it, sir?
That's it.
Could I have a motion to approve the director's report, please?
I move we approve the director's report.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call.
Freeman.
Yes?
Martyr.
Yes.
Ramirez.
Yes.
Tamplin.
Yes.
Wallers.
Yes.
Conan. Yes. Deal.
Yes.
Okay, committee reports. We have not had any committee meetings, but we're gonna get a technology committee meeting tonight after this meeting is over with, so. We'll do that. Unfinished business, the Eagle Scout project, we approved that. So we can move on to there. New business, the levy. Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance for the levy, please?
Make a motion to approve ordinance 24-2 for the levy.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, Jim?
Wallers.
Yes.
Conan. Yes. Deal.
Yes.
Freeman.
Yes.
Martyr.
No.
Ramirez.
Yes.
Tamplin.
Yes. Christmas walk. Sarah, tell us about that.
Christmas walk, we have traditionally let the Village of Oswego, they use, I don't know if anyone's been there recently, they have a lot of kids dressed up in large roll-up costumes, and so they go in and use the library as kind of a base, all their volunteers to warm up, they use that as well, and then they use our library parking lot for individuals who have disabilities, as well as those that are volunteering in the downtown.
Okay, so could I have a motion as requested there?
I make a motion to approve the approval of the Village of Oswego to use the Oswego campus for volunteer coordination for the parking lot and for handicapped parking and volunteer parking for the Christmas walk, 2:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. Friday, December 1st.
Second.
And we have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry.
Second.
I can't hear either. Any other comments, questions?
I'm glad to see that that parking lot is being compared to what it was before, being somebody who needed it, and then it was a very snowy, cold, icy night, and I know I've explained that to some of you before, that I couldn't find my car afterwards because I parked on one of the dark streets, and it was, so I'm glad that handicap is now available.
Yeah, too.
I know somebody can get you a stall. Okay, Jim, please.
Wallers.
Yes.
Conan. Yes. Deal.
Yes.
Friedman.
Yes.
Martyr?
Yes.
Ramirez?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes. Okay, moving on, 15C, PMA. Sarah, have you looked at any other possible groups or PMA?
Yeah, we've worked with PMA for quite a long time with our investments, and we've done a great job, and we got great reviews from other libraries that have used them. In the past, we had Ellers do it, they no longer do this, and we had used the one that they provided for us about 10 to 15 years, using those forecasts just to make sure we were on accurate trajectory of where we were going, and they were pretty accurate, and it was very useful too.
With that, could I have a motion as requested here for PMA services?
Motion to approve financial planning proposal from PMA for $10,000.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yes, so is this 10,000, is this for a one-time for this year? Is it for a 5-year? I wasn't sure we were clear on.
One time,
It's the one time that
the one
But
time,
it's for a projection, so he's going to project out to
So he's
20.
going to project out for,
but it's a one-time expense.
and is this something you're absolutely, we need to have?
I think, as I said, I think I'm pretty accurate, but it's good for the board to have an outside opinion that's from a financial field, that if somebody is from public questions or something, the board would like some more detail, we could have that. And just depending on, although it's great.
And do we have documents similar to what they showed that are any, like, are they comparable, not comparable?
When we did this in the past, we had a tender and they were comparable, it was a different firm, but they were very, what we got, what they forecasted came in pretty accurately with our eyes.
Any other questions? If not, roll call, please.
Ramirez?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Wallers?
Yes.
Conan? Yes. Deal?
Yes.
Friedman?
Yes.
Martyr?
Yes.
Okay. Employment, we're going to motion to review and compensation director. We're going to save that until after our executive session. At this time, we're down to the last item there, bookmobile.
Aurora,
Happy arrived.
Aurora
We've
just,
all waited, finally. I spoke with a consultant for the bookmobile. It takes, there's 3 sizes now. Bolingbrook has a full one, so we're going to do a field trip to Bolingbrook to see the different sizes. And I was going to invite, we have to have, if the board came more than 3, we have to have a public meeting, et cetera. But to come and see the different sizes, they have delivery van, a smaller service, and a large bookmobile. The delivery van can take anywhere from 9 months, but the large bookmobile is 9 to 24 months. So we're going to have to start planning if we're going to get one pretty soon. Also, the technology from the decennial committee, they said for the tech van.
If I may, depending on what kind of tech stuff we put in the van, it will be eligible for E-rate federal compensation, so we might not have to pay for it.
And the consultant said it can all be, you can pull out the tech and put in the book, you can pull out the book and put in the delivery, that they all come in module now. So this could be something that could do all kinds of things, from home delivery to going out to community groups to providing internet access and email on the go in some different areas of our 52 square mile circumference that we have. So this is the first part of it, and as I said, I'm speaking with a consultant that works with these, that would have to create the documents, etc., but they would also help us figure out what types of things would be in the bookmobile. So this is the planning.
This is like a warning shot.
There
we go, Sarah. Where are we going, Sarah?
It's happening.
well, you saw that Aurora just got a break. I know you saw
I
it.
think I saw the test.
I know you saw it. And second of all, my other comment is, all those summers that I taught migrant farm workers' children, multiple summers. We used that bookmobile in Aurora, and it was fabulous for those kids. That's all I can say about it. It was
That's a
great.
great time for them.
A lot of experience with it. It was great.
It was the only place with air conditioning. I went to a program. When the book will be okay, all the kids were like,
They were really excited when it
Yes,
came.
yes. Be able to reach a lot more people, different ages.
For sure.
Okay. If no questions, we'll move on then. We're moving on to open session for public comment. The total will be limited to 30 minutes. Board will now receive public comment concerning items on the agenda as well as communications reports from citizens or representatives from other agencies. Such comments should not include discussion of personnel matters, which should be brought directly to the attention of our director. Board meeting is a meeting held in public. It's not a meeting of the public. It is the prerogative of the president of the board to recognize members of the audience. If you are recognized to address the board, please stand, identify yourself, and address the whole board. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. I would encourage the board not to respond to any comments that are made. So at this time, Michael, you're up.
Hi, Michael Krumsky. So tonight I placed a couple things in front of you. One is a packet of all the lawful notices that were sent to you. And also I gave you a copy of the Illinois Constitution. So the notices that were sent to you, I'm bringing them up because those are all sent by certified mail and they are addressed to you. You can see at the top. And somewhere along the line, apparently they are not making it to you. So I'd like to read just a small portion on the top of that. And it says, notice to principal is notice to agent, and notice to agent is notice to principal. And what that means is you did receive it. Because whoever got it here, if they didn't give it to you, it really doesn't matter because you received it. It came certified mail and we have documentation of that. And why that's important is because you will become personally responsible for trampling on the people's rights. You can't hide behind your title or it being as a board member. And I remind you again tonight that you are a servant of the people. It doesn't seem like that should be that complicated to understand, but in this role, in your position, you serve the people. The people are in charge. And I remind you again what the purpose of the government is to protect the rights of the people. And you've already agreed upon that in the fact that you took an oath to the U.S. and Illinois Constitution. So whether you know it or not, you've already agreed to the terms of the contract with the people. I have mentioned again that you have trespassed at people's rights, and it's actually a criminal offense when you do that, and you will be held liable for that. I don't know why it's so difficult about this, because, again, some of the comments that were mentioned during the correspondence, it brings up book banning and other things that just are, never was mentioned here by any of the people that came to talk about the material selection here. Every single time, people have brought up that they don't want pornography brought to their mind. And we had some discussion about what, when we were using the terminology children or kids, you know what we were talking about, because the law uses minors, and that's anybody under the 18. So we'll make this clear again. We don't want people under the age of 18 to access pornography. The books that this library is supplying, this district is supplying, is pornography. There's no other way to look at it. The law is very clear, and you're distributing it to the minors. Those notices are a variety of things. One of them does talk about material selection and distributing that to minors. But there's also other things in there relating to not giving the people what they've requested, the video and audio of these proceedings, specific documentation, which was not provided, and now that we have the email situation corrected, that should be easily remedied. So again, you are personally responsible, and you have no excuse because of that first statement on that. You have received them. I gave you a copy tonight as a gesture so you can be able to see them if you did not see them, because every board member should have received them. Thank you.
Thank you. Barb Petrie.
Thank you. My name is Barb Petrie. Since you are a governing body, I would like to draw your attention to an exemplary governing moment in ancient Rome which proved to have historic results. It is described in these words from an official guarding his territory to Governor Antonius Felix. I rescued this man who was seized by an ill-intentioned mob as they were about to put him to death. I intervened with my troops because I understand that he is a Roman citizen. In this poster, you will note some parallels with the contention regarding pride books for young children. You see the squirrel, which was once happily frolicking, now seized by a hawk for the purpose of death to satisfy an appetite. The squirrel represents our children. I am here to help rescue them from the claws of confusion, deception, and perversion, which cause trauma or death in one realm or another, emotional, psychological, or even physical when combined with other cultural evils. The hawk represents the unseen predatory force driving the pride movement, which openly states that it is coming for our children. Its own songs and chants prove it to have the same spirit as an ill-intentioned mob. I am here to intervene because I understand that the children are citizens of God's domain and are to be protected, not left vulnerable to harm. Since we all just said the Pledge of Allegiance, I would also like to draw your attention to the phrase, "one nation under God." Webster says under can mean beneath, as in covered by. Let us not lose God's protective covering of this nation by allowing deception and perversion to rule the day in libraries or any other area of culture. Webster says under can also mean lower in rank. It is wise to realize that God is higher in rank than humans, so we must humbly allow him to call the shots regarding sexuality and morality. To be prideful and decide for ourselves will lead to destruction. Webster says under can also mean subject to authority, influence, and guidance of. To deny or rebel against God's authority, influence, or guidance in your stances and policies is to lie every time you say the pledge, every time you open these meetings in that manner. Webster says under can mean in accordance with. I am urging and challenging you to search out and lead according to God's will and ways, the God revealed in the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who raised Jesus Christ from the dead and who birthed this nation for his purposes and glory. Thank you.
Molly.
Hi, my name is Molly Krupski. I just want to say that this is about a lot more than just gay porn for minors. We've reached a critical point in history where people, we the people, have realized that what we might lose by standing up is nothing in comparison to what we will lose if we stay silent. We finally decided that we will not hand our constitutional republic over to socialist infiltrated groups like the ACLU and the Teachers Union, or Marxist groups like the American Library Association. We will not be intimidated by corrupt state legislators and governors who push and pass unconstitutional laws. We will also not be dissuaded by local reps who have bought into the lies of the corrupt state agenda and refuse to defend the people's children. Our current local governing situation here in the library and at the city hall and at the schools is very similar to the border invasion. 6 million migrants in, and we're just starting to realize that most of these aren't migrants at all, and we've just allowed ourselves to be silently invaded. So buckle up, because we're about to live out the consequences of our ignorance. The very same thing is happening within our government, our local government. The corrupt state is using unions and associations to seize decision-making power that is supposed to be reserved to the people and their elected representatives. The deep state can't stand the Constitution that grants only limited and specific power to the government, and reserves the remaining power to the people and to their elected reps to make local decisions about local issues while upholding the rights of the people outlined in our founding documents. Contrary to what you may have been told, the ALA does not protect inalienable rights. They are sent in to make sure people do not exercise local control. They are Marxists. Marxists don't want the people to have the power that they are entitled to under a constitutional republic. I know that the ALA has a Bill of Rights, but so does Illinois and America, and you took an oath to uphold these. We don't need to pass any laws, form any coalitions, or adopt anyone else's Bill of Rights to get protection or local control. We already have both. We have a 234-year-old Constitution that guarantees a representative form of government and enumerates our God-given inalienable rights. If only we could uphold it. So while the ALA's newest agenda is pumping porn into public libraries, that's not the real issue. The people, we the people, now realize that we have the power. We've always had the power, but now we know it. We've seen what happens when we fail to exercise that power, when we fail to uphold our reps accountable. We've seen what happens when the people fail to periodically recur to the founding principles of our Constitution. It's not good. We want our country back, and we won't shut up until America is operating according to her founding purposes. Despite the fact that we were almost distracted enough to be lulled into slavery, God has decided in His grace and mercy that we were born a free people and we will remain free in America. We the people are on the side of truth, and we aren't going to forget it this time.
Frank Johnson, no longer a resident of the district, but have been for 70 plus years. I also minister in a local church in the district. And I just wanted to call attention to your mission. Oswego Public Library District exists to provide quality library services which will effectively meet the informational, educational, and recreational needs of district residents of all ages, with special emphasis on supplying popular material, providing reference service, and assisting students of all ages in meeting their educational needs. I agree with that statement, but I do wonder what you consider their educational needs. I think you're considering some educational needs that should be left with the parents and left at home. Another item from your website, under selection of materials, you select by its appropriateness and effectiveness of medium of content, its insight into human and social condition, and its suitability of subject and style for intended audiences. No pornography should be intended for underage children. Another item, under censorship, selection will not be inhibited by the possibility that controversial materials may come into possession of children. My question is, even if that goes against the law of the state of Illinois. Thank you.
Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Engelhardt. Good evening. I'd like to begin with thanking you all for all that you do to support the public library. Public libraries are a community treasure for all that they offer, so thank you. I do not live in Oswego, but I currently live in the neighboring village of Plainfield. As a member of the Fox Valley community and as a homeschooling parent, I often visit libraries all over the Fox Valley area. I've visited and spent time in over a dozen area libraries in this past year and have checked out countless books through interlibrary loan, so I have a deep appreciation for all of the libraries in our broader community. Libraries feel like a home away from home for me and for so many others. It's so important for every member of the community to feel this sense of home and of welcome when they walk through the doors of the library. There are many ways to achieve this, but one is through the prominent display of and access to diverse materials. When patrons see themselves positively represented when they look around, they gain a sense of belonging and acceptance. It's sad that libraries have become the target of a push towards censorship of materials and of identities. Libraries should be a place of self-expression, creativity, diversity, and inclusion. In particular, there's a dangerous push towards banning LGBTQIA+ related books, materials, displays, and events. Library boards and employees need to remain strong in their commitment to freedom of expression and to the values and goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'd like to mention that this summer I read a book that I checked out from the library and is one of the most challenged books of 2022. It is a graphic novel titled Genderqueer by Maya Kobe. Both myself and my child, who also read the book, felt this book was a worthwhile and interesting story. It does contain mature sexual content, so I appreciated that it was something that I, as a parent, was aware of through my own reading of the book, and that I could have an open discussion with my child about it. That content is a very small portion of an overall powerful autobiographical story. This is an award-winning novel with not only literary value, but value in promoting understanding and empathy. I've printed out an informative handout created by the American Library Association about the book Genderqueer to share with all of you, that I'll hand you and you can pass it around. I made enough copies for everyone at that table. I'd like to highlight to you that the American Library Association has written that, in quotes, the foundation of modern librarianship rests on an essential set of core values that define, inform, and guide our professional practice. Among these are access, confidentiality, privacy, democracy, diversity, education and lifelong learning, intellectual freedom, preservation, the public good, professionalism, service, social responsibility, and sustainability, end quote. I urge you, as beacons of the public library, to maintain and strengthen your commitment to the values of freedom of information and promoting the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion, as demonstrated through your books, materials, displays, events, and communication. Let's continue to make libraries a robust and safe community space where all people feel welcome, seen, and affirmed. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else?
My name is Ben Franklin. I'm on the list, right?
Okay.
Why didn't you say my name?
Identify yourself.
Yeah, Ben Franklin. I'm homeless. Why didn't you say my name?
It looked like a fictitious name.
How do you know that?
I don't know that.
Why is it any of your business?
I
Whether or not
asked
my
if
name
there was
is.
anyone else.
Yeah. No, why didn't you say my name?
Excuse me. Do you have something?
Oh,
to
yes,
say?
I do. I do. My name is Ben Franklin. I'm homeless. Okay. Why was the public comment lowered to 3 minutes from 5 minutes? Was there a vote?
Do you have something you'd like to say?
Well, I need to know if I actually have 3 minutes or 5 minutes.
You have to make your comment and we don't.
Okay, okay. Since the public comment time has been cut to 3 minutes, I'll have to skip most of what I was going to read. I'm about to share some examples of the material I encountered in the young adult section. If explicit adult themes make you uncomfortable, please feel free to leave the room or cover your ears at this moment. Okay, so I'll start with genderqueer. This is I don't know how old this kid is, a little boy. It says he's getting a blowjob from another little boy.
Sit down.
Oh, no.
Sit down.
I give my
You're
3 minutes. I give my,
You're done.
this is in the,
You're done.
this is in the young adult section.
I'm
You're gonna let me talk.
No,
You're
you're
gonna,
not.
yes, you're gonna let me talk. All right, I want to keep going then. A great place to, this is another book in the library. Let's talk about it. That's what it's called. A great place to research fantasies and kinks safely is on the internet. They're telling kids to go online and look up porn. There are tons of people and communities out there who share your interests and have all kinds of advice. So they're telling, this is a book for teens telling them to go online and talk to to go to kink communities. This is, like, what does this have to do with inclusion? Oh yeah, okay. Here's a guy saying, sometimes I worry I watch too much porn, you know? And this guy says, yeah, I know that worry, but there's nothing wrong with enjoying some porn. It's a fun, sugary treat. This is in the library. This is why he doesn't want me to talk about it. It's a fun, sugary treat, porn.
And here's a guide how to masturbate. Whack it against your palm or give it some gentle bending pressure. Tug or squeeze on your balls. Oh, okay. This is about putting a butt plug in. This is for teenagers.
What's funny?
This is for teenagers. Shame on you.
What is funny?
It says, dip the tip of your finger inside. Let your anus pull it in when it's ready instead of forcing it. Dive deeper with your finger or butt plug. Just make sure any objects you put up there have a flared base. Otherwise, your hungry Heidi can gobble it up, and the only way to get it back out is a trip to the hospital. This one is encouraging kids to have sex. Yeah, I know it's funny, isn't it? Yeah. Sending or getting a wanted saucy something from a partner can be the highlight of your day. It's thrilling, sexy, and fun. A way of saying, you turn me on, hot stuff, or let's get turned on together. It's a long-distance act of intimacy and trust. Oh, this one's hilarious. This is about finding porn on the internet for teens. Depending on your age and where you found it, porn can also be unethical or illegal to watch, so do your research. Look up interviews with your favorite porn performers. Go to the sites they recommend if you pay for your porn. Come on.
Telling children to pay.
Come on, dude. Here's from Genderqueer. Memorably, I got off once while driving by rubbing the front of my jeans and imagining getting a blowjob. This is a girl who thinks she's a boy, fantasizing about getting a blowjob while driving. And this is okay for children, according to Terry. I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my perfect dildo. It will fit my favorite perfect dildo perfectly. Jeez, I can't even read this shit. You know what? There's a kid giving a blowjob to another kid that's in my head because of you people. I did not know about this stuff until a few weeks ago. And now I can't get this shit out of my head.
Your 3 minutes is up.
Good. I'm tired of talking about this.
We'll be back next month.
All right, could I have a motion to go into executive session, please?
I'm going to take my time as a board member here.
No, there's no time as a board member. This is comments from the public.
Okay, I'm going to take my time as comments from the public then, to address this board.
No,
Because
you're not the
we've
public.
had,
What are you?
we've had
You're a
4
board member.
meetings and we have not had a discussion about the core issue that was brought to this board to
Jim,
address.
You're a board member.
And
Act
when,
like
and we
one.
can't, you and I met, we can't do this in private. We have no other place but to meet. So I'm looking to the rest of my board members to see if you guys are comfortable with this stuff in our library without any controls on it, to make sure that kids can't get it unless their parents check it out for them.
Enough is enough.
I haven't even scratched the surface.
All right, could I have a motion to go into executive session?
No.
Terry, no.
Absolutely.
No.
You gotta
You
get
can't
this
stop
crap out
it,
of the
Terry.
library, Terry.
You can't stop this
Library.
conversation.
Don't make a motion.
Motion to executive session.
Make a motion to
Go
go
into
into
executive session.
I second.
Second.
Me, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, clear the room, please.
Hope the money's worth it.
I'm sorry, everybody.
Who is it? There, help you.
Two.
They hadn't taken the funding policy stuff yet, so it's like.
Could I have a motion on our director's salary, please?
Make a motion for director's salary.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Did you say the amount?
4%.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
I'm just going to make a quick comment. I'm going to abstain, but I think you do an excellent job. I do appreciate you
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Jim, roll call.
Deal?
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Martyr, Ramirez,
Yes.
Hamblin,
Yes.
Wallers,
Yes.
Conan, yes.
Okay, upcoming meetings, we've got the tech committee after this. Regular meeting November 15th, 5:30 at the Oswego campus. A motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Technology will begin in